Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, we want to talk to you about all of those times that you lose it or lose your mentalizing ability and your ability to kind of equalize everything that's going on. So when we say your mentalizing ability, what we mean is your ability to be more objective and to be able to assess different perspectives. And generally speaking, we're pretty good at doing this.
Some of us.
Some of us are pretty good at doing that.
Some of us.
when we're in a calm, low energy state, kind of like us right now, right? But when you get frustrated or you get into an argument, this state becomes very energized. You start having that stress response and you become more emotionally invested in whatever is occurring.
And you want to punch either your computer screen or the other person.
Right.
Those moments.
Yeah. And, it's a completely normal reaction, but it greatly impairs your ability to maintain objectivity. And you start operating with black and white thinking, where I don't know what happened, but maybe...
Yeah, that's like the first sign of black and white thinking. A lot of people can't identify when they're using that kind of thinking, but it's usually when you're being an emotional shithead.
Yeah.
Like, you can pretty much guarantee that you're thinking in black and whites.
Yeah. It's, oh man, it's like you have an old belief, right? And you feel like that belief is attacked. And so the only possible way of looking at the situation from your mindset is either you're right or you're wrong. There is no ground for nuance, right? It's not like it's not that you're wrong. It's just that, maybe your perspective isn't everything that's going on. But because
maybe you don't have all the details.
Yeah.
You think you do.
Yeah. And maybe you make assumptions about the other person and everything that's going on instead of actually getting the facts. And so that's, the black and white thinking is your current perception is either correct or it's wrong. And if it's wrong, then that's an attack on you as a person. And the other person that you're upset with is
the attacker.
The attacker, and
so your fight or flight goes off.
Like, they don't care about you and how you feel. They don't care about your perspective.
And ding, 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 that's a bunch of childhood trauma right there. That brings up a I was never cared about feeling.
Yeah.
And it just, no, you're not consciously thinking these things. So it's not like, oh my God, as a child, my mom neglected me and I don't feel loved. And so when I'm wrong, I don't feel loved. You don't think that way. Mm-hmm. You think, I don't like this feeling. I don't know what the fuck is happening inside my body. Like, I just want to punch them.
Yeah. And it's really like kind of a fine line to draw, because those feelings of like, you don't care about me, you don't care how I feel, you're a bad person, those stem from feeling like, well, what it says, literally the person doesn't care about how you feel. And so it's a fine line kind of in the sand where, well, where is that how do you differentiate them disregarding how you feel and them just trying to expand on how you feel and introduce what's happening from their side of the fence, right? Because it's hard, especially when you're emotional, it's hard to understand those differences. Like, maybe they are acknowledging what you're saying, but they just want to add more details to the story because you're not operating with all the puzzle pieces.
Yeah, but a lot of times we confuse like the intensity of our emotions as it being more truthful.
Yeah.
Like, if our emotional reaction is super strong to what someone is saying, that means it's even more true. Because why would we get so emotionally volatile over something that wasn't true?
Yeah. And I mean, and again, that's just how your brain
That's how the human brain works.
And it makes sense. It really does, because we can only operate in this world through our own subjective experiences. Like, we can't read other people's minds. And so I guess, this is really easier said than done. When you get into these highly emotional states, pause and ask yourself, like, I'm super worked up right now, even though I feel in control, am I actually? Am I doing black and white thinking?
I find it easier to just walk away from those situations for a couple hours and ask those questions, because when your fight or flight is like adrenaline pumping through your body, there's like no rational thought usually for people.
Yeah.
And so I personally like to remove myself from the situation for a little while.
Yeah. Take a drive, take a walk, leave the situation so that you can get your mind back down to a baseline level, and then maybe you can revisit it. Yeah. And I mean, maybe you won't have to. Like, frankly, sometimes these arguments arise from things that are so dumb that once you do calm down, you're just like, I just don't even care anymore. Like, I realize
that it's dumb.
This has no meaning in anything.
I find a lot of like the arguments online though are from two wounded people, meaning that they both think they're right because they have all these like subconscious wounds. That it's not even about the discussion that you're having, and that's another reason why I won't like comment on certain things that I'm tagged in attacking me, because I'm like, this isn't even about me. Like, it's about me challenging your belief paradigm. And who knows if I'm right? Like, I think I'm right, but I never state absolutes, or I very rarely do. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's usually them just trying to argue their own internal wounds.
It's just
of rightness.
They're projecting their trauma.
Yeah.
Because
I don't have time for that.
They need to keep reliving this trauma because to them that's true.
Yeah.
And you will see this in relationships. Like, I don't think
or interactions anywhere.
I don't think that there's anyone existing in this world who doesn't carry with them some form of trauma from their childhood. I mean,
it's just part of development.
Yeah. And part of growing up, so to speak, and maturing is, recognizing that trauma and being
learning
able
how to deal with it
in
an appropriate, responsible manner.
Yeah. Your brain is very malleable when you're a kid. And so it's going to be subconsciously influenced by a whole host of factors that then pop their heads back up when you're an adult that you never even knew were there, that literally impact the entire way you perceive certain situations.
Yeah, and it's my belief that it's a wasted life to never question why we have these strong visceral reactions. Like, you can't go through life like a puppet, like that strings are just pulled by multiple people all the time. Like,
yeah. And I mean, a lot of this is very abstract for probably many of you listening. So to kind of pull it back down to earth with something I'm sure you're all familiar with, these childhood traumas are really no different than something like post-traumatic stress disorder. In both cases, there are environmental triggers that just make something in the brain go off where suddenly you're just like,
yeah.
And I mean, the evidence of overcoming them exists again in those individuals who seek counseling to understand what their triggers are and how to deal with them in more appropriate ways than freaking out.
Yeah, but this is just a video on how to show you to do it in your everyday life instead of going and talking to therapists, which you should do if you need to.
But so anyway, be aware of when you're doing black and white thinking. It often happens when you get super worked up emotionally over things, and then take some time to cool down, enter that baseline state, really ask yourself, what is it going on? Were you actually in control? Is this black and white thinking, and how can I expand my perspectives? And, just at the very least, hear what the other person has to say, and then express yourself, because you need to have all the pieces of the puzzle in order to form conclusions. So yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, if you like this video, then awesome. That's what we're trying to do. And if you know someone who you think the information in this video would help out, then please share it with them. Thanks.
Bye.